All right, so this will be the last one for today. I'm trying to crank out a bunch of these all at once. Probably not the smartest strategy, but I want to get caught up. This is Jerome Bump's piece, Thinking Outside the Text Box, 3D Interactive Multimodal Literacy in a College Writing Class. And this one was especially interesting to me, even though I had some problems with it. I saw a lot of you also had problems with it on the forums. Bump seems kind of jaded to me, sort of cynical. Sort of get the idea that he's had some sort of bad experiences. He's tried his best, but had some just bad stuff happen. I don't want to call him a failure, but anyway, definitely had some frustrating experiences, and to me that sort of came across in his tone in some certain parts of this piece. But I definitely sympathize with him. I've had a lot of the same problems and really some of the same issues that he's had and that you all raised in the Nuggets. So there's quite a bit to unpack here. So let's jump into this. So first of all, he poses this question. Would a use of an MMOG, massively multiple, what is the G? Massively multiple online game, I guess. With the use of think Second Life, or I suppose even World of Warcraft, uh, some EverQuest, some game like that. Would the use of a virtual world enable us to push the boundaries of English, rhetoric, and composition curriculums, providing these students entree into truly multimodal composition and the communities of innovation related to it? So I just want to stop right there and ask you this question. What do you think? Don't even worry about what Bump thinks right now. Just sort of, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think a virtual world would help you to teach multimodal composition and communities of innovation within English 191? All right, so it kind of jumps right into his problems that he's had. And these are legitimate issues, big problems. One, of course, is the difficulty of archiving anything that happens in these virtual worlds. Basically, how do you record this and go back later and have a record of what transpired? You don't just grade based on memory. You need some way to reflect on this and assess it, right? Plus, it's kind of nice if students later on can go back and see this material. But maybe the whole thing shut down. Maybe the recording was deleted. Maybe the site is down. A bigger problems is, maybe you yourself aren't the technical guru. You got somebody there to help you, some expert. Suddenly that expert's gone, and you're sort of left, holding the bag, so to speak. What do you do then? Security concerns out the wazoo. A lot of college campuses are very nervous about security and confidential information leaking out. Maybe they talked about FERPA, which maybe somebody's parents could get a hold of their grades. There's just all sorts of confidentiality issues with this. So that's just kind of a whole big mess that a lot of people just don't want to mess with. So that can kind of shut you down really quickly. So yeah, these are all legitimate concerns, and I don't see them really going away anytime soon. So it kind of makes you wonder if it's even worth it. Another problem they've got is what they call the anti-verbal bias in games, or things like Second Life. A lot of games, and I know a lot of you and your Nuggets poo-pooed this notion, and I agree to a large extent. But I also do think it's true to some extent that games are moving away from text, maybe even voice. I think that's a bit of a stretch. I think if anything, we're moving maybe from text to a sort of voice chat. That seems to be more common to me than some other form of communication. But you definitely see less instructions in games. I remember when I was a kid playing, you'd buy a computer game, the thing would come with a manual, and you were expected to sit down and read that manual, or you wouldn't know what the hell was going on. And now that wasn't true of arcade games or Nintendo games, but if you're playing something like SimCity or Civilization, you probably did need the manual. Over time, a lot of this material that would have been in the manual sort of gets into the game itself somehow. a tutorial built into the game, perhaps, or maybe they introduce concepts so one at a time. I mean, there's various strategies to basically make it so that you don't have to spend so much time with a manual. Now, I think these authors go too far. What's his name? A Mump. He's going a little too far. The goal at times seems to be the death of words altogether. I just don't see that, at least not in the games I play. I know some of you mentioned some of the games I don't remember if I saw Skyrim mentioned, but that's a real popular game, and you can actually find books. And you're wandering around this world killing ogres or whatever, and you can actually find a book, and the book opens up on the screen, and you can turn the pages, and it's pretty much just like reading a book. So I don't see that as being the death of words altogether. So I just basically just disagree with this point. He also talks about some web design books, and I've used this one myself. Krug's Don't Make Me Think is actually the title of that piece. And really the idea there is that a well-designed interface doesn't require instructions. It should be self-evident how to use the interface. And really for what Krug's talking about, it makes a lot of sense. If you're going to dictionary.com, obviously you're there because you want to look up a definition. You shouldn't have to sit down and read some instructions to figure out how do I get a definition, right? That should be obvious, which is really Krug's point. So, I think the gist of what Krug is saying is that you want to make the interface in such a way that you can reduce the amount of instructions that you need, not necessarily that instructions must die. But anyway, what do you think? I know some of you talked about this in your nuggets, so feel free. You can copy and paste that if you want, or just give me another take on this. What are your thoughts about games or web pages? Do you think that we're heading towards the death of words, or is this just kind of overblown? Moving on, he talks a little bit about moves. And moves are actually pretty big here at St. Cloud State. Really up to a few years ago, I think we finally started to phase them out. But these were, if you could imagine something like World of Warcraft or Second Life, but the whole thing is in the form of text, kind of like the old school Zork adventure games, that sort of thing. So you would see a description of a room, and then you could type in commands, dialogue, things you wanted to say, or you could pick up things or make things. So it's actually a very creative environment. And what happened was these evolved, or some might say devolved, into graphical versions, like Second Life, where instead of just text, now you've got actual 3D people, characters, and objects moving around in these environments. But they say both of these are kind of unique in that they provide a sense of place. So I think that's I would agree with that 100%. If you're on a website, that feels very different than wandering around Second Life. And I don't know how many of you have played around with Second Life. If you've never seen it before, I would recommend getting on YouTube and looking for some videos. Or you can, I think it's free to try it out. It might be free. I don't know what the status is on it now. It's been a while. But anyway, it is pretty neat because you can explore all these different worlds. You can create your character. And if you're sophisticated enough, you can even create your own objects, dances, or whatever. They say here that they can even provide a sense of studying abroad. I know a little bit of a weird thing here. They talked about how this, I guess the theme of their class was architecture and senses and places that are important. A lot of people thought, well, again, what does this have to do? This is pretty far out from the usual English 191 theme, but I could see if you did have architecture as a theme, it would make a lot of sense to go with something like this. But yeah. So there were some issues they had with Second Life. Well, let's see. These are Second Life problems, I guess. One is they said that many teachers use Second Life, and that's true. We even had an island here. The university. Well, let me see. It was MnSCU, the sort of big organization that runs all the universities here in Minnesota. with the exception of the U. They bought all this real estate, quote unquote, in Second Life. And I'm not sure what all was going on there, but there was a lot of hype around it there for a while. But anyway, this author's correct when he says that many teachers use Second Life, but few, if any, ask students to write in it. So I guess the people using Second Life, they might have been interested in the computer science aspects of it, or maybe I think there was some history people using it, to show off historical sites. I mean, there are a lot of pretty obvious applications for it. But the thing that probably doesn't jump into your mind when you're looking at Second Life is composition, or English 191. I mean, what does that have to do with Second Life? But anyway, they wanted to change this. And they created some sort of assignments that I guess tried to take advantage of the sort of unique affordances of Second Life. They had students build these road maps, quote unquote, of their the most important places to them. So they talked about, some of them made PowerPoints and then were able to somehow import those PowerPoints into Second Life. And that doesn't really sound all that creative. It sounded like what they really wanted them to do was, master I think it's called Linden script, which allows you to actually make objects within Second Life and build their own, what the campus master plan. And so it's kind of a neat idea, I thought. It's sort of using Second Life as a rhetorical platform. So maybe you have a vision inside your head of what you'd like your campus to be like. Well, you can try to describe that in words. Maybe not so effective. Try to draw it, maybe, but if you could actually recreate it or created a 3D version of it that you could show people and they could walk around with their character and see different sides of it. That's a pretty neat idea there. They call it a architectural hybrid genre because in addition to building the buildings, so to speak, or modeling these buildings, they're also writing essays. So I guess this is a pretty interesting idea. I'll pause here and ask you, have you ever used Second Life or Virtual World with any of your writing classes? And if so, how did you do it? And if you didn't, why not? Or would you consider doing it? Why or why not? And I guess that will do it. I thought I had another slide here. I will say I have, as I said, I've used Second Life before. And I didn't use it in a 191 class, but I've had some fun with it. The problem I have with Second Life, and a lot of people have with it, it's just complicated enough to make you have to spend a lot of class time trying to explain how to use it. And there's always somebody that can't get it installed, or it's not working correctly. Plus, there's a lot of shall we say, inappropriate content all over that thing. And if you really want to get into the scripting part, which is kind of the most interesting bit of it, that's actually the hardest of all, and only a few students seem to be able to rise to that occasion. So there's lots of problems. I would actually recommend, if you want to play around in a virtual world, I would not recommend Second Life. There's plenty of easier, more accessible ones. I know you probably know some yourself, but one I've been playing with lately is called Furcadia. And that one, you can have students create their own animal personas. That's sort of cat people or dog people or whatever. You sort of have an animal theme going there with the characters. And that one's it's designed to be very easy. And the scripting language for that is simple enough that no kid, not exaggerating, a small child can use it. It's just really that simple. So if you have any interest at all in using a virtual world in your classes, no matter what, check out Furcadia, and I'm happy to help you with that if that's something that interests you. But anyway, I'll stop it there. As always, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the subject. If you have anything else you'd like me to discuss or to think about, please chime in, and I'll talk to you next time.